look at our organs of elimination. I call them our garbage disposal units. You'd call them your trash disposal units. Is that right? Yes. We never say trash in Australia. But if I can drive on your roads, I can adjust. And I'm pretty sure that when you see the flashing yellow light to the left, you can turn on that, can't you? Yeah, I'm learning. So as you see from our last presentation, the liver has been designed to detoxify us. That's why you're the best person to begin with on your environmental poisons exposure that you have had through your life. Because that's what we are. We are a combination of all those little bits and pieces. We had one girl, she was only in her 20s, she was so sick. When she was a little girl, her brothers used to throw her in the sheep dip for fun. So what's the sheep dip? Well, they dip sheep in Australia to, chemicals to stop them supposedly getting sick. And they used to throw her in the sheep dip, so she had so many chemicals in her body, and yet she was only in her 20s. Because there's always a reason. So it's important to look for the reason, become private investigators. So as the body detoxifies through the liver, as the environmental poisons are released, we need also to be mindful of our 4 main organs of elimination. And the largest organ of elimination is the skin. We don't think of this usually as an organ of elimination, but it is the largest organ of elimination. The skin absorbs, the skin breathes, and the skin throws off waste. Dr. Kellogg, in one of his hydrotherapy books, he said that the skin has millions of little sewers. What's sewers? Throwing off waste. Throwing off waste. And that's why the skin needs to be, we need to wash our skin every day. We need to have a bath every day because the body's throwing off waste via the skin. And we need to change our clothes, especially the clothes that are touching our skin every day. Because today's waste that was thrown off via the skin, some of it settles on the clothes. And if we wear those same clothes tomorrow, our skin can absorb some of the waste that it threw off yesterday, especially in a hot climate. Now, I'm not talking about the outside skirt, pants, the outside. It's more the ones that are touching our body. The skin has certain needs for it to be an effective organ of elimination. The skin needs to be allowed to breathe. In fact, if the skin is totally covered, the person can die. And there's the very sad story of the little girl who was painted gold for a play and she died. And when they filmed Goldfinger, the James Bond movie, they painted the model gold, filmed her, took that off, then painted the back and filmed that because they knew they couldn't cover her whole skin or she would die. There's an American show, it's on television in Australia, it's called Mythbusters. You've heard of Mythbusters? It's not a show I really watch or ever watched, but my son was watching it one day and I noticed that they were going to expose the myth that you can't cover your whole skin or you would die. So they started to paint this guy, and when they got a little more than halfway painting his body, he almost went into a cardiac arrest. And the film crew and the behind-the-scenes guys ran onto the set and started peeling this paint or whatever they painted him with. Well, that wasn't a myth that they were busting. That was a truth, that you can't cover the whole of the skin because the skin must breathe. So be very mindful of what touches the skin. Remember, it breathes, but it also absorbs. And it also throws off waste. So it is one of our organs of elimination. So when I say allow it to breathe, be very careful of what you put on your skin. You really need a magnifying glass to read the fine print in the moisturisers that many people use. I was just talking to a lady recently and I said, when I'm in Colorado, that's the only time I ever need to put something on my skin. It's really dry there. And my hair seems to stand out almost like a scarecrow the whole time. It's so dry. And all these little bits that usually just hang a little bit, they just stick out like this. It's the only time because usually my skin is moist. What oils do I put on my skin? I don't put anything on my skin. But I'm well hydrated. Hydration is important for the skin. So how many glasses a day? Approximately 8. And that's 8 ounce glasses a day. Because the water loss in a day is this. From the kidneys, we have a 1.5 litre loss. And I think you know that a litre, that's what we use. It's the same as a quart. So 1 litre is 4 8-ounce glasses, that's a quart. So you lose 1.5 litre from the kidneys as your urine, and from the skin, you use 0.5 of a litre loss. Now if you're working out in the garden and you're perspiring a lot and it's a hot day, you might lose even 0.8 of a litre loss. From the colon, it's a 0.3 of a litre loss. And from the lungs, it's a 0.2 of a litre loss. So that's 2.5 litre loss in a 24-hour period. So we need to be replacing at least 2, that's your 8-ounce glasses, and the other half litre can come in your fruits, your vegetables. So the skin needs for us to be well hydrated. So I want to go back to breathe for a moment. Be careful what you're putting on your skin. I mentioned water because that's one of the best ways to keep the skin nourished, is to be well hydrated. I do recognise that some people have been born with drier skin, and the best creams for the skin would be coconut oil, or what really softens the skin is castor oil. Now, some people don't like coconut oil because it's sticky, but within a few minutes it's absorbed. And some people really don't like the castor oil because it's ultra sticky. And it will absorb through, but it might take half an hour. And most people say, I haven't got half an hour. So they are some of the best oils for the skin. But be very mindful of the fabric that touches the skin. So there are 3 chemical fabrics that are made out of plastic, and that's polyester and acrylic and nylon. So these are really chemical fabrics. Now I don't mind if I have a fabric that is mostly natural fibre and maybe has a little bit of that in. Now men, it's not usually a problem. They have cotton underwear, cotton undershirts, cotton jeans, cotton shirt. It's the ladies who like the pretty things. And I challenge you, try and find a bra and underwear that's made out of natural fibre. So I'll tell you a funny story. I was in Idaho in 2021 and I was in a Trader Joe's and I saw this whole stand that had the Brandy's Booty, and it had underwear, leggings, singlets, petticoats, all made out of bamboo. And the bamboo is called viscose. So I'll have to tell you, I went a bit berserk. I bought a whole lot of stuff. I was so excited to find all of these underwears made out of bamboo. And I got home and I was taking the packaging off and I read the fine print, made in Australia. So it's like taking tea to China, isn't it? Yeah?
Just a quick question. So I was just told that if you use that bamboo, that the way they break down the bamboo into the cotton, they use chemicals.
Okay, that's a good question. Is how do they get the bamboo so soft? They use chemicals. And the other two fabrics made out of wood are rayon and also modal. Modal is the cellulose spun from the birch tree, M-O-D-A-L. And yes, all of these fabrics are softened with chemicals. But if you wash them and hang them on the clothes, back to the clothesline, on the clothes for a day, it detoxifies it. Now, one of the most sprayed crops in Australia is cotton. So it's the same with cotton. You've got to wash it and you've got to put it in the clothesline because the sun purifies. We're going to have clotheslines jumping up everywhere, aren't we? So the sun purifies. Let it detoxify your clothes. What's interesting is when you wash the fabrics, it's really stiff when it's wet. Reminds me of wood. And then you hang it out and it can go really silky. Of course cotton, but again cotton must be washed. And also hemp. Hemp is another natural fabric. Wool. I have a lot of wool clothes. I left most of them at my daughter's place because I thought it was going to be hot here. But apparently it is going to warm up. What about next to my skin? If you get merino wool or lamb's wool, it's very soft. In Australia they have, of course, a lot of wool products. And I have a big, thick woolen jumper I got from Ireland, an Aran jumper. And it is a little prickly, but it didn't touch my skin. It's on the outside. So have another look at wool because I also know that you get thermal underwear, often made out of wool, and it's very soft. So you can get some very soft wool. Wool breathes. That's one of the beauties of it. So again, it's natural fibres. So many people are taking chemicals into their body because of what the fabric that their clothes are made out of, what's touching their skin. You get a hot sunny day and you start to perspire a little bit, then the pores open and the fabric warms up and you start to absorb the chemicals out of that fabric. And it is one of the contributing factors to breast cancer that we're seeing today is the bra, because so often it's made out of chemical fabrics. I know in Australia a lot of maternity bras are made out of natural fibre. You can even get modal maternity bras. I think it's because they're realising that breast that's producing milk for that little baby, we must have it out of a natural fibre. And so it's just a matter of having a look. And also another big contributing factor is the underwire bras, which is blocking the lymph flow out of the breast and into the underarms. So again, have a very good look at the clothes that are touching your skin. Biggest pores on the whole of our body and the soles of our feet, and so the socks. You can get some very nice bamboo socks, but again, wash them, put them on the clothesline for the day. In the little room that I'm staying with, in one of the residences, I get the afternoon sun, so I've washed my clothes and got them all hanging in the sun. They're almost dry. So it's something to be mindful of. A lot of people don't think about their skin. Be mindful of what you put on your skin. in its creams. Be mindful of also the fabrics that are touching your skin. This skirt is an illustration. It's wool. You would never believe that it was wool. It's incredibly fine. And what am I doing wool on a day like today? Well, it's a bit cool in here with the air conditioning, but it's very fine. I have some other skirts that are very thick for when it's snowing. But have another look at fabrics. But also, when people stop buying these chemical fabrics, it forces the producers to start looking at alternates in fabrics. The skin also needs you to exercise, because when you exercise, you increase the circulation of the blood to the skin, and when you exercise, increasing the circulation of the blood to the skin, it throws off more waste. When you exercise aright, ideally you should need a shower at the end of it because you have stimulated your circulation so much that you are perspiring. What the skin also needs is water. Notice that the skin uses water to throw off waste. So at our retreat, every afternoon, we light up the steam sauna. And our guests go in the steam sauna, and they get very, very hot, and they start perspiring a lot. And then they go and dive in the cool creek, but if they're not very agile, there's a cool shower there. And they cool off and then go back into the steam sauna, and they usually do that 3 times. By the 3rd sauna, body temperature is often up to, what we say, 40. So I think our 42 is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what we're aiming for, is to get the body temperature up like that. Because when you get the body temperature up, metabolism increases, circulation increases, healing increases, and the skin's ability to throw off waste increases. We say to our guests, you'd be shocked if you'd scrape up your perspiration and test it and see what's in there. Whew. It's one of the ways that God designed the body to eliminate waste. Remember, it's the liver's role to break down the environmental poisons, and now it's these organs of elimination that are eliminating the poisons. Remember what the 3 phases of the liver detox did? It got the fat-soluble toxin down to a water-soluble state, and now it can be easily sweated out of the body. So our guests usually do 3 hots and 3 colds, and in the middle hot we have a bowl of Epsom salts, which is magnesium sulfate, and they rub. And 3 things they're doing it for, and one is that crystals exfoliate the skin and open the pores, and also rub off the dead skin, because the top layer of skin is usually dead skin. Number 2, the body starts absorbing some of the magnesium, and in the big sweat you're losing some of the magnesium. And magnesium is a water-hungry molecule. So when you rub the Epsom salts on your skin, as a water-hungry molecule, it's going to pull more perspiration out of you, which means more waste is coming out of you. So if you're inspired to have a fast for a day or 2, you can have an Epsom salts bath in the evening. And lying in the Epsom salts bath, that magnesium will draw more perspiration out of you. So to prepare for the steam bath every day, we are, and we've already touched on it up here, we require that our guests drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. So you'll see that we serve a juice every 2 hours. So we suggest that our guests have a glass of water on that hour between the 2 hours. Because you can't hydrate your body just before you go into the steam bath. You need to start hydrating your body as soon as you wake up in the morning. Did you try it this morning? Wake up, have half a glass of water, go to the bathroom, have another half glass of water, pray, have another half glass of water. Spread it out. And you'll be surprised how much water you can get into your body, little by little by little by little. So the water on the inside and the water on the outside and also daily wash. So we suggest that our guests have at least 2 showers a day while they're on the detox. So one after their morning walk, and the steam sauna can also account for one. Another organ of elimination, not often seen as such, is the lungs. And the lungs are also eliminating waste. And I mentioned an interesting little organ just in the throat here called the tonsils. And the tonsils are part of our lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is a very interesting system, and it's not often discussed. The lymphatic system sweeps away waste from the tissues. And the lymphatic system is like little canals all through the body, and these little canals have gates. And they're one-way gates taking waste away from the tissues. And that waste can be dumped into something called the Peyer's patches. And the Peyer's patches are little lymphatic nodes that are in the colon. And of course that can be easily released out with the daily evacuation. But the other lymphatic organ that's in the throat is the tonsils. And the tonsils throw waste straight out. These are the only 2 lymphatic vessels that throw waste straight out. The other lymphatic little canals, what they do is they take the waste into the nodes. So you've got lymph nodes in your neck, you've got lymph nodes under your arm, you've got lymph nodes in your groin. And there are lymphocytes in there that are a type of white blood cell. Then the waste is put into the blood, and then it's either sweated out or breathed out, or we'll look at kidney and colon as well. But the tonsils, it's thrown straight out. And that's why on your morning walk, you might cough up a thing or 2. Rejoice, that's just come from your tonsils. Because your tonsils are taking the waste out that your lymphatic system dealt with. So they're a great organ, but if a person has an allergy, their tonsils are going to get overworked. So it makes no sense to take the tonsils out. What we should be asking is, why are the tonsils overworked? And the tonsils can be overworked because the person is breathing in chemicals or breathing in molds, or they're eating food that the person has an allergy to. And the most common are dairy, hybridised wheat, oats, peanuts and refined sugar. They're the most common allergen foods. They're your high mucus forming foods. The lymphatic system is a network of little canals, similar to the blood, but there's a big difference. Let me show you. This is blood. What blood has is a muscular coating. And so when the heart pumps, these muscles, it's like a reverberation all through the body, pumping, pumping. But the lymphatic system does not have a muscular system around it, and it doesn't have a pump. So what causes stimulation of the lymphatic system is walking, arms and legs moving, but the most powerful is the rebounder, that little mini trampoline. This is called the health bounce. So if you're unable to jump, just start with the health bounce. And as you start jumping on the rebounder, it stimulates in a powerful way the movement of the lymphatic system. So when you're jumping, when you're up to the peak, every little gate in your lymphatic system opens. When you hit the mat, every gate closes. Then it opens and closes, opens and closes. So it causes a pumping system on your lymphatic system. So when our guests are doing the 2 days fast, we suggest they jump on the rebounder. Sometimes it's called the lymphocyzer because that's what it stimulates. 3 minutes, 3 times a day. That's not very much, is it? And when people are at a computer all day, they really should have a rebounder nearby. Every hour, 1 minute. 1 minute. In fact, the performance in the office would so improve that everyone would be going home early because of the powerful way it moves blood, but also the lymphatic system. So we suggest our guests to stimulate their lymphatic system while you're on the detox, and don't be surprised if there's a cough up here and there coming out from your tonsils. Your tonsils are doing a good job.
And what if you don't have tonsils?
What if you don't have tonsils? I'm so sorry. But your body adapts and adjusts, and we're just very thankful for that. So what your lungs need, they need fresh air. I'm so glad that where I'm staying I can open my windows. Mind you, I can only open them 2 inches, but at least I can open them. Make sure you're getting fresh air every night. Your lungs also need you to be hydrated, because and I'll draw it to show you. So here are our lungs. That's one lung. The trachea splits, comes down, and then it splits again, splits into little bronchioles. And at the end of every bronchiole, there's like looks like a little bunch of grapes. Here's a bronchiole, and this is at the end of each bronchiole. We have 300,000 alveoli, and it's in the alveoli the gaseous exchange takes place. And in every alveoli, there's a little minuscule droplet of water. And because of the surface tension of water, what's surface tension? Have you ever looked at a little dam or a little stream and there are little creatures running on top? They can do that because of the surface tension of water. But if you squeeze a bit of shampoo in there, they'll sink because that cuts the surface tension of water, allows us to wash our clothes, wash our hair. Because of the surface tension property of water, when we breathe out, it causes the alveoli to collapse, so that when we breathe in, we can get a full quota of air. In dehydration, some alveoli don't have that little bit of water. They don't totally collapse, which means they don't get rid of all their carbon dioxide, which means when the person breathes in, they're not getting their full quota of air. So you can get more oxygen into your lungs, into your body, by being well hydrated. So lungs need hydration, lungs need fresh air, and lungs need for you to exercise. When you exercise, you increase the power of your lungs. When you're getting to that top of the hill, remember, always nose. Lungs also need you to only nose breathe so that the air is purified, humidified, pressurized, moistened, always nose breathing. Exercise strengthens the lungs because it opens the lungs. And it causes us to be abdominal breathers. When people are only breathing with high chest, often they're only accessing the top half or 2/3 of their lungs. That means down here is not getting this air in and out. The Framingham Heart Study showed that by the age of 50, many people had lost 40% lung capacity. So why have they lost lung capacity? They've lost lung capacity because they never exercise. So those lungs are never getting that full workout. They found by the age of 80, most people had lost 60% lung capacity. So it's time to exercise. It's time to exercise and practice nose breathing. It allows then the lungs to release the waste from the gaseous exchange at the cellular level, but the lungs must have it in and out through the nose. Kidneys. Our kidneys filter the blood, and the kidneys do it in quite a fascinating way. But the kidneys have certain needs for them to be able to eliminate effectively. They must have water. Our urine should almost be the colour of water. So when the urine is dark yellow, that damages and harms those little nephrons. We have 1 million nephron in one kidney, and our kidney is about as big as our fist. So be kind to your kidney and drink water, but don't drink a lot of water at once. Take it in little by little by little by little. And whole salt. The whole salt is necessary because the more water we drink, the more water we lose, and when we lose that water, it's taking minerals out. Celtic salt contains 82 minerals. So I'll give you a comparison here. So Celtic salt, 82 minerals. This is definitely a whole salt. And Himalayan salt has 75 minerals. So ideally we use the Celtic salt. And if the only salt you can get or have is Himalayan, it's almost as good. Whereas the salt you buy on the supermarket shelf has 2 minerals, sodium chloride. So we need the whole salt. The kidneys also need to be kept warm. Let me show you. Here is the kidneys, and all the little filtering units are on the edge. And the kidneys are near the skin. But if they're allowed to get cold, not a lot of blood is going to go into the kidneys. And if blood's not getting into the kidneys, it's not getting filtered. Then the waste builds up in the blood. And then the person is now diagnosed with urinary tract infection. But what we've got to ask, why? Why are the microbes so busy with the urinary tract infection? Often it's because the person's dehydrated or the person is not keeping their kidneys warm. I find in the middle of summer in America, you've got to look after your kidneys because every room, every house, every building you go into, it's so cold from the air conditioning. So what happens if the kidneys are allowed to get cold? Then the body starts to build up adipose tissue. I think it's called, here's the belt. I think it's called love flaps, is that right? This. Love handles. So if you want to retain a slender waist, keep it warm. Even just covered so that it does not chill. So the kidneys must be kept warm. The kidneys also need us to exercise because when we exercise, we increase the circulation of the blood to the kidneys. And that's a good news because the kidneys are filtering the blood. Exercise also causes movement of the kidneys. So every step that you take, the kidneys are moving. And if you're rebounding, every jump that you do, the kidneys are being strengthened to perform their work. So the kidneys need you to be well hydrated, the kidneys need you to be having the whole salt, the kidneys need you to be warm or to be kept that area warm, don't let it chill, and also exercise. Only microscopic waste can come out of these organs. The largest pieces of waste is eliminated via the colon. And the colon has a mind of its own, have you noticed? If you're going too much and you tell it to stop, it won't. And if it won't go and you tell it to go, it won't. The colon needs gentle stimulation. So how do we gently stimulate the colon? Regularity. The colon loves it when you do the same things at the same time every day. We are creatures of habit. So we should be eating at the same time every day, because even though our gastrointestinal tract is about 10 metres, so that'd be your 10 yards long, and it seems a long way from eating to evacuating at the other end, but when the stomach is stimulated, it causes peristalsis all the way down through the small intestine and the large intestine. And it loves you doing the same things at the same time every day. And when you do the same things at the same time every day, you can almost predict when evacuation time is going to be. And that's handy because we're busy, we're working, we're doing different things. So regularity is important. Also hydration. One of the main functions of the colon is to take water out, so stools are formed. So this is the colon. And here's the appendix. And again, God did not make a mistake. The appendix is a very important organ of the body and helps to lubricate the colon. And the last part of the colon has a loop. And that loop is held up by a muscle. But regarding hydration, one of the main functions of the colon is to take water out, so stools are formed. You see, when the contents of the small intestine comes into the colon, it's liquid. And so as it goes through the colon, the water's taken out to form stools, and then the evacuation happens. If the person's dehydrated, more water gets taken out than should be taken out, and then we can be left with cement and rabbit pellets. The colon also needs the right position. What do I mean by position? So let's have a look at the person sitting on the throne doing the daily evacuation. Sitting in this position, this last part of the colon, which is held up by a muscle called puborectalis remains taut. It's a muscle. Things can still get through, and we know they can get through. But if the person, when they're sitting on the throne, has a stool in front of them, so that when they're sitting on the throne, they're in the squatting position, puborectalis relaxes. And when puborectalis relaxes, it causes the colon to open right up. And so the contents of the colon can be passed with great ease. So when I was in Africa, Tanzania, only 5 weeks ago, I went into their bathroom and there is a hole in the ground or in the floor. It's all tiled and it's a flush toilet. And also when I was in Singapore, I saw the same thing. And when I was in India, I saw the same thing. So many countries traditionally, the way they go to do their daily evacuation is squatting. Science now shows us it is the best way to do the daily evacuation because this muscle called puborectalis relaxes when the knees are up, allowing the colon to empty with much greater ease. But not only that, it takes pressure off the anus. And if this person here hasn't been for a day and they decide to help things along a bit and strain, all the pressure goes here and something has to give. It's called hemorrhoids. It's not a very pleasant experience. When I was working in the operating theatre, we did a hemorrhoidectomy. What the surgeon does is he gets a suture line, ties it around the neck of the hemorrhoid and just cuts it off with scissors. And I think, how's that person going to feel when they wake up? By the way, how's that person going to feel when they do their first evacuation? Torture's alive and well. And because it's so painful, they take painkillers. And what does painkiller do to the colon? Dehydrates even more. It sounds much easier to go to Bed Bath and Beyond and buy yourself a squatty potty, which is a little stool that sits around the toilet and allows us to mimic the squatting position with our daily evacuation. So squatting can help prevent hemorrhoids. Squatting can also help to heal from hemorrhoids. So it's a great way to protect the colon, is to get into the habit of squatting. The colon also needs daily exercise, because when we exercise, we increase the circulation of the blood to the colon, and when we exercise, we also cause movement in the colon. So daily exercise is important for the proper functioning of the colon. The colon also needs us to relax. I'm a colonic irrigation therapist. I was taught colonic irrigations many years ago. My teacher's dead now. She was 90 when she taught me. She used to say, tight mind, tight colon. So it's important to relax. One lady said, it just annoys me when my husband takes a book to the toilet. I said, you've got to take a book. Relax. And when you relax, it relaxes the colon. The Bible says it's in Proverbs 22 verse, 17:22. Proverbs 17:22 says, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. I'd like to suggest that a broken spirit dries up the colon. Relax. See, I've got a book at home that I'm halfway through reading. It's called The Second Brain, and it's about the colon. The colon also needs fibre, because what fibre does, it massages the colon, it sweeps the colon. And all plant foods contain fibre. The only plant foods that don't contain fibre are your refined foods that have had the fibre taken out of them. So you see the structure of the colon. It's got little corners, little grooves, and it needs to be swept every day. So what fibre does is it sweeps the colon, but what fibre also does is it stimulates peristalsis through the colon. So when we eat, that peristalsis all through the gastrointestinal tract is stimulated. And often we have 3 meals in our gastrointestinal tract at one time. And that's why when we eat breakfast, usually the day before's meal is evacuated. And when we eat lunch, maybe the breakfast is evacuated. We should be evacuating, ideally, a meal. The transit of a meal should take 16 hours. But in a study done on Americans, they were found that they were evacuating twice a week. So what's happening is waste is building up in here. And remember the microbes, the microorganisms come along to clean up the waste, and etc., etc. So it's important to make sure your organs of elimination are eliminating effectively. Also, the population of the colon has a lot of microbes, so cultured foods are important. And cultured foods contain what's often called the friendly or the healthy flora, Lactobacillus acidophilus, bifidobacterium. So it's a good idea to include cultured foods like sauerkraut, miso, yogurts, kefir. Your cultured foods help to keep the colon populated, in fact the whole of the small intestines as well, with the healthy or the friendly flora. Unfortunately, there are many drugs that kill off this friendly or healthy flora, and that friendly or healthy flora is also important part of our immune system because it also works with the Peyer's patches. Remember those? They're like little little nodules like this that are they're mostly in the large intestine, but they are also some are found in the small intestine. And that's why your healthy flora in the gut is so important for your immune system, because these patches have lymphocytes in them. There's your white blood cells. And your lymphocytes are like the scout. They're scooting around through your blood, through your tissues, looking to see if there's any problems. And also part of your lymphatic system, releasing waste. So ideally, a meal should not be inside more than 24 hours. Because not everyone's colon is functioning optimally. 2 intakes of food should equal 2 evacuations. 3 intakes of food should equal 3 evacuations. And again, our colon has a mind of its own. But you can gently stimulate it. And also, as I mentioned yesterday, promptly answer nature's immediate call. When the body says go, we must listen. We must listen to every part of our body, every function. So only microscopic waste can be eliminated via the skin, the lungs and the kidneys, but the largest pieces of waste are eliminated via the colon. It's one thing to give the liver the right conditions so that it can break down our environmental poisons, but the next step is to ensure that our organs of elimination are given the right conditions so that they can effectively throw off the waste. No good to clean the house and keep all the trash at the doorway. So the organs of elimination are vital. And there is another organ of elimination for women, and that is the uterus. What we have found, if a woman is having her periods when she's doing the detox, often her periods are heavier. So she's eliminating waste in that way. And I'll be talking about the hormones, I think, on Friday night. There's another even smaller organ of elimination called the tongue. And when our guests are going through a detox, often they wake up Monday morning, definitely Tuesday morning, with very bad taste in their mouth. And what they want to do is clean their teeth. But I don't suggest cleaning the teeth in the morning, because there's a little bit of B12 in your mouth in the morning. So when you wake up, that's the best time to have your water and get that B12 down. There is a way to clean the tongue. It's called oil pulling. Dr. Bruce Fife, who's written many books on coconut oil, he's got a whole book on oil pulling. What's oil pulling? It's putting a spoonful of coconut oil in your mouth and then swishing. Swish, swish, swish. You might swish for 10 seconds, rest for 10 seconds, swish for 10 seconds, rest for 10 seconds. And usually you would oil pull for at least 10 minutes. If you've got time and you're able, you might go 15 minutes. It's called oil pulling because the oil pulls waste out of the tongue. It pulls waste out of the glands under the tongue. It pulls waste out of the blood vessels under the tongue. And so when you're oil pulling, and when you finish, please don't release it down the sink. Do you call it a sink or a plug hole? Call it a plug hole. Because the coconut oil will go solid and you'll block up your plumbing. So please release it in your trash can, or if you've got a yard, release it out on the grass. Take water and rinse your mouth a couple of times and release that out, because that oil will be full of waste. I'll give you an illustration. My son-in-law Matthew, he was lacquering a floor, and he kept all the windows shut because it was a dirt road outside. But he was breathing in this lacquer, which was a little toxic, and when he got home he felt ill. from the exposure to the chemicals. And he had an idea. He just heard about oil pulling. So he put the oil in his mouth, swish, 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 and within 1 minute, he could taste the chemicals. He released it out, rinsed his mouth, and did it again. The next time, it took 2 minutes. Now, he did this over 10 minutes, and he did it about 15 times. And by the time 10 minutes was up, he said that there was hardly a taste of chemicals in his mouth. And he felt so much better. So it's a very easy way to get those chemicals out of your body quickly. And of course that was an extreme illustration, but it just shows how effective that oil pulling is at pulling waste out, even pulling the chemicals out of the body. So when our guests are doing the 2 days on juices, we suggest that they oil pull about 3 times a day. I know often, especially if I've been travelling, been flying a lot, I oil pull in the morning, and when I release it out, I always cough up a lump or two, and I say, thank you tonsils for pulling that waste out. I've known people that have had infected gums, bleeding gums, and they oil pull 3 times a day, and within a week, their gums are not bleeding or infected anymore. So it's a very simple little thing to do. We're not used to a mouthful of coconut oil, but there's a pathway in my brain now that says it's all right, she's not going to swallow it. She's just swishing. I find the coconut oil is the best. I ran out of coconut oil once and used olive oil, but it was not as nice as the coconut oil. Yes?
What about castor oil? I've heard about castor.
Castor oil is very, very thick. And one of the beauties of coconut oil is it's antimicrobial, it's antifungal, so the coconut oil it's another reason why I think it's one of the best. Yes?
Will oil pulling help cavities?
Will oil pulling help cavities? It'll help. That's right. It'll help. Our teeth are an illustration of the nutritional status of our body. But it's very good for oral hygiene. As one dentist said, one of the problems with people's teeth and gums today is people don't eat enough hard food, crunchy food. We should be eating apples, carrots and crunchy food to massage our gums and to massage our teeth. And I think we're looking at child nutrition later in the week, where I'll be showing you that's the best food for baby, crunchy. Get them into the habit from a young age. So oil pulling can be a great way to detox in a simple way. It can be a great way to help with gum hygiene, teeth hygiene, and also help to pull that waste out of the tissues. Yeah?
One time, or 2 different times in my lifetime, I had some really bad infection in my teeth. So I did the oil pulling, and I was able to discharge the 2 teeth.
Yeah, so the lady said she had an infection in her tooth?
Yeah, I had this infection.
Yeah. So if there's an infection in the tooth, you know what why? Why would it be there? Often it's because it's a root canal and you've got the body trying to get rid of it, and absolutely the oil pulling can help that. Or maybe it's because there's a bit of decay in the tooth, and so that certainly needs to be investigated if there is. But the oil pulling can certainly help to bring it under control. Are there any questions as we close?
I have one. Back on I think it was when you were talking about the steam, that you needed to have 8 glasses of water, no, 8 glasses of water, 8 ounces every day, and you needed to do it before you steam. Is that the whole 8 glasses before steam?
The 8 ounces, the 8 glasses of 8 ounces needs to be taken in a 24-hour period.
So before and after?
Yeah. But my illustration was If a person hasn't been drinking water all day and they think, I've got to get hydrated for the steam, it's virtually impossible. All they'll do if they drink 3 8 glasses at once, they're not going to be able to stay in steam long. They're going to have to release it out as urine. So the way to hydrate your body is little by little by little, all through the day, with just a break before and after meals.
Doing the Celtic salt or the Himalayas, how do you get the iodine, the iodized part?
There's no iodine in any salt. And the reason is, when the waves crash, the iodine goes into solution, or suspension I should say, out of solution into suspension, and it goes and settles on the land. If you buy iodized salt, that's sodium chloride and iodine, within a couple of hours opening the packet of salt, the iodine has evaporated. So the only way really to get your iodine is to eat food that's grown on land near the coast, but also Lugol solution. Lugol solution is a solution that's a combination of iodine and iodide, 2 different forms of iodine. The iodide is particularly used by the breasts and the uterus, and you can put that on your skin. It'll form a brown smudge. And if the brown smudge is gone in 1 hour, your iodine levels are low. If it's still some semblance of colour after 5 hours, your iodine levels are good. So that's a way to just check your iodine levels, and it's not a bad idea to check them about every 6 months. Iodine is the fuel used by the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland uses selenium to convert iodine into thyroxine. But if someone has mercury fillings in their mouth, that'll gobble up all their selenium. So selenium is another factor that is necessary. So you can see all of these things work together, yes? Or are you just yawning? Yeah.
Watching some of your videos, you mentioned adding just a little bit of sulfate salt or a little bit of Himalayan salt, literally a couple of grains. Does that act as kind of like an electrolyte when you do that?
Yeah, the question is adding the bit of salt. I never add salt to my water. I usually put it in my mouth and drink it down. Is that electrolyte? That's what electrolytes are, minerals. So when you buy an electrolyte drink, which a lot of the athletes do, no need. All you need is water and a little packet of Celtic salt in your pocket. The more you perspire, the more salt that you need. How much salt should you take before each glass of water? About the size of a sesame seed. If you're not used to salt, go very lightly to get your body used to it. Yes?
I was just wondering how sea salt compares to the other two.
Sea salt. Did you know that sodium chloride, table salt, is sea salt? See, it's one of those tricks in advertising, because they've got seawater and they evaporate the water and the first crystals formed are sodium chloride. Because sodium makes up 30%, chloride makes up 50%. So they're the first crystals formed. So they scoop that up, put aluminium with it so it runs freely, bleach it so it's white, and then they call it sea salt. Came from the sea. So if something says sea salt and it's white and it runs freely, get worried. See, it should have a bit of colour, that's the minerals. And if it says sea salt and you're not sure, you can contact the company and say, could I have a mineral analysis of your salt, please? And they will give you a mineral analysis of their salt, yes?
Did you say the salt, the grain of salt you should take is with every glass of water?
That's what I do. Dr. Robert Thompson, in his book, The Calcium Lie, he says, all you do when you do that is replace the minerals you lost yesterday. Because as we lose moisture out of all of these organs of elimination, we also are losing some minerals, so they need to be replaced.
So what foods would give you the iodine if you're not getting it in the salt?
What foods would, if the food is grown near the coast, it'll have iodine because it'll be in the soil.
How do we ever get that in Nebraska?
Well, maybe every home should have a little bottle of Lugol solution.
And what's the spelling of that word you're saying? Lupul or
I know I've got this strange accent.
Walker has
Lugol's.
it.
Lugol's solution.
Okay, so you add that to, you just add some, take some of that every day or something?
No, you just put it on your skin, and that'll tell you what your iodine levels are like.
Right, but if you're low and you need more.
Yeah, if it's gone in an hour, guess what you do? Add it every day.
Okay, so you use
Put it on every day.
Okay.
Put it on every day until it stays. Then, because if your iodine level is low, it's just going to grab every bit.
Run in 1 hour. You
Pardon?
take, if it's gone in 1 hour, you take some Google solution, and if it's gone in 5 hours, your level's okay?
Yeah.
What about seaweed?
Seaweed. There would be some iodine in seaweed. The problem that I have with seaweed is what's happening in the seas. With what happened in Japan with the nuclear power station shut down. And unfortunately, there is so much secrecy around these nuclear shutdowns, and they don't always tell you the truth. I watched a documentary on the plane. It certainly passed the time because there are about 5 shows in the series on Chernobyl. Yeah, the secrecy, and don't let the public know some of the things that happen there. And you've also got nuclear testing in the seas. You've also got an incredible amount of waste being dumped into the seas. There is not mercury in seawater because it's a heavy metal. It sinks to the bottom of the sea, but it's the seaweeds and the fish, and especially your prawns, your lobsters, your crabs, they're the vacuum cleaners of the sea. So this is where you get the mercury build up in there. So I keep to the Celtic salt. The waves are constantly purifying it with the beating of the waves. And again, it doesn't have the heavy metals because they sink to the bottom.
So what, are there foods that have iodine in?
I can't tell you exactly what foods because it all depends where they're grown. And one lady said red clover. Red clover is if it's grown locally. The problem is that that the chemicals can compete with iodine, especially the bromides. They use bromides in sprays for berries, and how many people have smoothies and put the frozen berries in, and unless they're organic, they have bromide that competes with the iodine. So there are problems there. But you're right, when you live in an internal country right in the middle, it's a good idea to test your iodine levels every 6 months with just the iodine on the inside of the skin, inside of the arms.
And what do you need iodine for? Thyroid?
Yeah. In the book Iodine, Why You Need It and Why You Can't Live Without It, Dr. Brownstein, he's considered the expert on iodine. Very interesting book, and he shows how underactive and overactive thyroid glands can both be iodine deficiency. Yes?
Yesterday you talked about zinc. What does that do with the copper, the balance there, or?
When we take zinc in its natural way, which is, where do you get zinc? You get zinc in sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. They're all very high in zinc. Zinc is in grain, but it's locked. But if the grain is made into sourdough bread, that culturing process releases the zinc. So I prefer to have minerals in their balanced state, which is in food. But if a man has a prostate problem, then zinc supplements are important there. Some people, with the first bout of COVID, they lost their sense of smell and taste. And COVID, the first round of COVID took that away, but the zinc can help to revive that. So if there's a problem, the zinc supplements can be taken, and as long as the person's having lots of leafy green vegetables in their diet every day, that's supplying enough copper so that it doesn't get out of balance with zinc. Time is up. Time for a break. I'll say a closing prayer. Father, thank you so much for what you've taught us this morning, and again for this incredible body you've given us with its inbuilt ability to heal. We pray you'll help each one of us to retain, understand and practice what we learn. And we thank you again in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. So tonight we're going to be looking at boosting the immune system, and that will be at 7 o'clock. And then the 6, that's right. The first one's 6 till 7. The second one's 7:30 to 8:30. And the first one will be on boosting the immune system, and the second one is called Let's Sleep.